Hey, kia ora to you. Lovely to be together. Romeo said to me this morning, he goes, Dad, what are you talking about this morning? I told him what I was talking about. He goes, I've heard 6 sermons on that in the last 2 weeks, because he's been at the Elim conference, and then he was at the Assemblies of God conference as well. I said, well, don't worry, this will be the best one you've heard on it. And he said, ugh. So I don't know if I want to talk to him afterwards and find out one way or another. All right, so we're in a new series, The Wellbeing of the Soul. Part 1 last Sunday, Linda was preaching. She didn't know it was going to be part 1, and I didn't know it was going to be part 1, but it tied in so well to what we're doing that we just labelled it part 1. Linda will talk about pain and heartache and the need to acknowledge it, but not to let that be the framing story, to hold on to promise in the midst of pain. And Linda has a deft touch with complicated emotional realities, and she did a great job. So that's well worth kind of listening back on to catch that. Part 2 today, we're going to start with 3 John 1 verse 2, which I'm going to treat as our... sometimes I hold it down and then it shoots through 5. You'll have to run the slides for me, not work. Oh, nah, back. Is that the second one? All right, where are we? 3 John 1 verse 2. I'm going to use this as this is kind of the background verse that's going to sit behind the series as we go through it. So I'll use a little from the verse today, and then there's a particular thing I want to talk about. Famous verse, you will have heard it before. Beloved, I pray that you may flourish and be in good health, just as your soul flourishes. That is the Sean DeToit translation, because we were talking about it the other day, and he sent me his translation of the Greek. There's a commentary I was looking at by Thomas Bennett. He says, my dear friend, I pray that you're in good health and that all the things of your physical life are going as well as your spiritual life. There's a different translation. The one you're probably most familiar with, because it's shorter and it kind of rattles off the tongue, is the New King James Version. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. Which back in the day becomes a catalyst for all sorts of power to prosper sermons. And if you could just get your inner world, just the prosperous kind of inner world, you watch as all around you, like your business takes off and your relation takes off and everything's just going to be amazing. You just got to get the stuff on the inside right, and you just watch as it all kind of flourishes around you, which isn't too different from The Secret. If you can just like imagine it and visualize it and kind of, what's the word, manifest it. You can just manifest it, it'll come around you on the inside. And we're not going down that path, and I want to suggest that the verse is not about that at all. Quite simply, the verse is John's very best wishes extended to his friend Gaius. It's his very best wishes. And what's the very best wish he could make, or prayer he could make for somebody, or desire he could have something? Well, the kindest thing John can say is he prays that all of the physical things, all the material things in Gaius's life, his health, his work, his business, his family, whatever it might be, would go as well as what he knows Gaius's inner world is going. Man, I know how you're doing on that inside. On the inside, I know that you're in a good place. Man, I just pray, and I'm believing that the stuff in your life could go as well as what the stuff on the inside is going. Gaius' soul, his inner world, his spiritual life is in the best state possible because he's in union with the Father through the Son by the Spirit. That's outstanding. And so John's prayer is like, well, I just pray that everything else would be outstanding as well. It's kind regards and best wishes. Man, you've come alive in God. You come alive in Christ. The Spirit dwells within you and you're in union with the Father. Man, that's outstanding. I just pray that the other things in your world would be outstanding as well. It's kind of the heartiest best wish you could offer. To leap beyond that into a prosperity strategy would be probably a leap too far. At the same time, though, the verse does remind us of the great complexities of human experience that we live out every day. Our experience is both physical and material and exterior, as well as psychic, in the sense of not psychic reading minds, but of an inner nature as well, the mind and the soul and the thoughts. Physical coming and going, and situations and circumstances and engagements and experiences. Psychic in the sense of there's this thing called the mind, and we talk about the heart. There's our inner world of processing, of feeling, of emotion, of imagination, of memory, of hope, of anticipation, of fear and worry and doubt. There's the stuff on the outside, the stuff on the inside. They're two realities. To be human is to live an embodied existence that doesn't separate the inner and outer world, and instead seeks integration and requires attentiveness to both. They're convenient ways of speaking about what it is to be human. But of course, in speaking about them, we immediately pull them apart to speak about them. But to live is to have them fused together continually. When you watch somebody go through heartache or pain and not express emotion, we tend not to go, man, that person's doing really well. We tend not to go, man, they're a role model for how to navigate, pain and heartache and misery. We'd go, oh, that's not good, because those are embodied realities that kind of fuse together. To be human is both and, not either or. We're not a spirit that has a soul that lives in a body. We're fully embodied beings. Our great hope is not the immortality of the soul. Our great hope is resurrection life. It's the great hope that we have. Embodied eating and drinking and living and walking and talking human beings. Barbecuing fish on the beach. Barbecuing fish on the beach. That's what we see Jesus doing. He's barbecuing fish on the beach. Good news for some, not so much for others, depending on whether you like fish. Humans are physical and psychic, body and soul. We navigate situations and circumstances, but we also navigate thinking and feeling in real time and real life, finite capacities, vulnerabilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Next slide. To be human is to be an affecting and an affected creature. An affecting and an affected creature. Affecting our actions, our inactions, our words, our silence, our doings or not doings, they impact and influence others. We're affecting beings. We make a difference. We affect the people around us. And we are affected by the people around us. There you go for you English people, affecting and effecting. I had to Google it just to make sure I was on the right track, because they're not the same words, they mean different things. We are affecting beings. We affect the people. We effect the people around us. We are affected by the people around us. What they do, what they say, what they don't do, what they don't say. Oh, what a delight and oh, what a disaster to be created like that. It makes life an adventure. It opens the door to beauty and wonder and love and delight, but it opens the door to heartache and pain and disorientation and disaster as well. You can walk up to somebody and you can speak to somebody and you can say something to somebody and you can totally change their entire countenance, for better or for worse. You could trip them out in great ways or in disastrous ways. I was running with Lisa the other day and she goes, man, I love just being out running with my best friend. And I was like, oh, hello, I'm feeling good. Yeah, that was outstanding. Let's go faster. Let's do more Ks. Let's go running more. I'm feeling good. I was about to collapse in the gutter, but now I'm feeling I've got a second wind. Let's go. Someone texted me this morning saying that I aced the sermon at a conference I was at. Amazing and well articulated, added so much value and was such a blessing. That was the text I got from a pastor who was praying for me at 5:30 in the morning when I woke up to go over this. I was like, yes, feels good. It's a good text to get. Someone said to me a while ago, seeing you across different contexts, you're the same person in all those different contexts that I engage with you. That's very authentic. I was like, oh, thank you. You feel good. That lifts you. You feel good. I was affected. I was affected by that. They were affecting and I was affected. But of course it can go the other way as well. I had some feedback that the low point of the conference was my session. Closely followed by Sean DeToit's. So there you go. That may give you a little hint on the person that was offering the feedback or what they appreciate in life. So, that doesn't, you don't feel so good when, you know what the low point of the conference was? Your session and Sean's. So, wow, I'm glad that filtered back. It's feeling great. I've had people say, oh, more cerebral nonsense from you. That doesn't make it feel good. Though, when somebody is using the word cerebral to protest intelligence, I'm very conflicted as to how to take that and how to process that. I'm like, you're using big words to talk about not using big words, but there you go. Someone said to me, you live in La Land, you have no idea what it is to be a pastor and what pastors actually go through. If you are telling pastors they should read books and do training sessions. I was like, oh, okay. And it's nice to say it to you guys, but in the moment you're like, oh, whatever, and you kind of navigate it. But afterwards you're like, oh gosh, No idea what. That's the only thing I know. That's the only thing I know what to do is be a pastor. I haven't done anything else. So, we're impacted, and we can be lifted on great heights, but we can kind of plummet to the depths as well. Not just words, events, circumstances. Circumstances do that. Thursday started great for us. And Lisa went to let out the chickens that we're looking after for the neighbours a couple of houses up. And they're overseas, and we're just looking after their 5 chickens to discover that a dog had got into the cage and all 5 are dead. And so she comes back, and she's all teary, like, the chickens are dead. It's like, I've got a sermon to write. It's like, now I'm burying chickens and contacting somebody in Japan just to, like, let them know. And it's like, oh, gosh. And it's like, Lisa's like, I'm not going back up that driveway again. It's like, it's just like that. It's like, your whole kind of, the day is not going how we thought it was going to go. Had a nose to tail on Thursday as well. That was awesome. But it was my tail, so that was all right. And I was in my four-wheel drive, and she was in her, I don't know, Hyundai Elantra or something. So she gets out, what happened? And I said, well, the straight light went green, but the red arrows stayed red, so I didn't turn around the corner. I had to have to wait for it to go green. She's like, oh, I know it's my fault. I was like, yeah, same. Don't worry, I know that as well. I looked at my tow bar on my truck, it's fine. Looked at the front of her little car, it's like, yeah, it's not pretty. So I was not impacted so much by that, but I don't think the rest of her day, which was the last thing I needed, she said. It's like, yeah, I can understand that. I've had nose to tails when it's the other way around. You read a news article, the rain can turn your day upside down. It's raining, I have plans. It can turn your day upside down. Lisa was on her phone, we were at lunch, she's on her phone, she's scrolling her emails, she's like, oh no! And I'm like, who's died? She's like, we've missed Lachlan's haircut appointment. And I was like, oh, sheesh, easy. We've had the chickens, the nose to tail, and it's like, I don't think the haircut, I'll just drive them up now. They impact your day. And those are minor things, but sometimes they're major things. And sometimes when there's not much in the tank, the minor things are pretty major things. So there can be somewhat disorientation, and then there can be total disorientation. There can be somewhat delight, and then there can be total delight. Exterior realities producing internal responses. In anything and everything from nausea to vomiting, to hysterical laughter and bouts of sublime happiness. You know, things can happen that make you feel nauseous, like you're going to be sick, and before you were feeling fine. As well, though, interior realities produce external responses. Anger on the inside often bursts forth that hits people that weren't deserving of receiving that anger, but it's kind of bubbling away on the inside. So a bystander or a customer or a family member is the recipient of that. Joy on the inside can leave people kind of, especially at sport matches, can leave people embracing and high-fiving and hugging strangers in the street. The interior reality can impact the exterior. We were watching the cricket one time, and this guy called Grant Elliott, he hit a 6 when we needed him to hit a 6, and Doug Marscolt leapt into the air just in great delight and landed on a full bottle of dip that hadn't have been opened, and it exploded like a cannon in a 360-degree radius of my living room, like down that wall, down those curtains, and down those curtains. And the worst bit about it was like 3 a.m. It's like, who's got energy to deal with this, Doug? But this happiness, it's like, boom, it can explode into our exterior world. Countertransference is when something happens in a moment and it brings to life unprocessed emotions and thoughts and memories from a previous situation that are often disproportionate to the current situation. But something happens that takes you back to that place, and suddenly in this place you're reacting in a way that's not really proportionate to really what happened, but it reflects, man, there's some stuff. Weet-Bix eating competitions, for me, I start gagging straight away. Like if one of my kids just pulls out a Weet-Bix and just bites it, mate, I was a youth pastor for like way too long. Like I can't process this. I just can't. They're bananas, you know. I've eaten bananas from between 16-year-old boys' toes. So like, you know, now I'm just scarred from that. Just memories. Can be unexpected things. I brought home a red bucket. Lisa needed a bucket, so I brought a bucket. I brought a red bucket. Shouldn't have brought a red bucket. Can't believe it, buy a red bucket. What? I needed a bucket. Yeah, I got you a bucket. Why did you get a red bucket? What's wrong with a red bucket? That's what I had through my pregnancies. And every time I was nauseous, I'd throw up in the red bucket. Now I can't look at a red bucket. I was like, oh, but I don't think I did anything wrong. I just got the wrong color bucket. You don't need to. It's these things that happen that take us back to something else. Sometimes it can be happy things, but sometimes it's sad things and heartbreaking things. A song can come on the radio, a smell, the season, whatever it might be, and it takes you to this other place. The inside and the outside kind of all tangled up and impacting one another. How much more so when we consider abusive situations or relationships or things that remind you of a time of heartache or loss, take you back to a moment of feeling powerless. How much more those things are uncomfortable, unbearable feelings. There was a girl at the movies away from me, a young teenage girl, about the age of Anna Marie, maybe a year younger than Anna Marie. And she was buying like large popcorn and large drinks, and her card kept declining. And she's like, oh, can we get the medium one? Can we get this? Like, it just took me back. I know what it's like to have my card decline. It's horrible. And I wanted to like try and pay for it, but there was people around, and because I've paid for people before at the supermarket or the groceries, and I'm happy to do it. But it just didn't quite work for me to rescue this girl in this situation. Not that she needed rescuing per se, but I was like, oh, I know the unbearable feeling. I know what it's like when your card's declining and you keep going smaller. It's like these little things that kind of tangle us up and remind us of things, and it's not always comfortable. It's complicated being human. It's complicated being an affecting and an affected, fully embodied, external, internal combustion engine that you are. It's complicated. My Labrador doesn't suffer from any of these realities. Humans, it can be complicated to be a human. Stoic comments, you can't control what's happening around you, but you can control what's happening on the inside. Oh, powerful. It makes a good meme on Facebook kind of thing, and there's truth to it, but it doesn't really tell the whole story. It doesn't really articulate the human experience. What about those seasons when you can pretty much control what's happening around you, but nothing you do is controlling what's happening on the inside? It's like, oh, it's all back to front at the moment because we have those seasons as well. It's complex. Nevertheless, it's to a degree that we can control exterior things to look after ourselves on the inside. There's a degree to which we can manage the inside in order to look after things on the outside. And we're going to explore some of those in the next few weeks. We can actively pursue holy, whole, and wholesome lives. Holy, whole, and wholesome is both inner realities and expressed engagement with the world around us, which is a massive part of what it is to grow as disciples, what it is to grow into the fullness of the image of God revealed in Christ Jesus. It's to bring those two things into alignment. Interior and exterior alignment in Christ. All right, next slide. One of the harshest things Jesus says is to these scribes and Pharisees. He says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You're like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautifully outward, but inside are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Even though outwardly you appear righteous to men, on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. That's a big hit. You know, your session at the conference was the low point. I'd rather take that. Like this one here, that's real kind of hard hitting. Jesus is entirely unimpressed with exterior beauty that isn't matched by the same inner disposition towards righteousness and justice and love and peace and goodwill. As well, though, Scripture's unimpressed by supposed interior virtue that isn't matched by exterior virtue. The book of James is it feels like it's Jesus' brother James offering a life application commentary on the Sermon on the Mount. He picks up all sorts of ideas within the Sermon on the Mount and then kind of gives you ways that you should be living it. James 2, verse 14, verse 17. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warm and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. I just want to put those two verses up to show, hey, look, you can get it right on the inside, but not have it right on the outside. And God doesn't really want it to be like that. You can get it right on the outside, but not have it right on the inside. And God doesn't really want it to be like that either. We're called on this journey to bring those things into alignment. That said, the invitation I want to offer to well-being this morning is a total paradox to this reality. It cuts right across it, it interrupts it, it straddles it, and it is sublime, I think. All right, next slide. Ephesians 2, 8 verse 9. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. Salvation by faith alone, sola fide. The verse has been in our Bibles since day number 1. But by the time we get to 1517, Martin Luther is very unimpressed with the Catholic Church, very unimpressed with the processes via which people have to, the hoops and that people have to jump through to find salvation, to hold on to salvation, to retain salvation. There's penance and there's consternation. There's a bunch of different things, and it would be fascinating to tell that story, but I don't really need to tell that story, except to say that there was just all this stuff. Martin Luther was so unimpressed with this that he writes out 95 kind of calls for reform for the church. In 1517, on Castle Church in Wittenberg, he nails his thesis to the door of the church and he says, this has got to change. This has got to be turned around. It can't be like this anymore. Salvation is by faith alone. What did he mean when he says that? In a nutshell, what Martin Luther was kind of getting at was that you can relate to God personally. You can relate to God personally. You don't have to relate through the church, through a priest, through a pastor, through anything. It's you and God. It's an I and thou relationship. Firstly, it's an I and thou relationship. You can relate directly to God. Not the priest, not the pastor, not the pope. And it's really simply about accepting the message of acceptance, that's what he saw the whole kind of story of Scripture was, that there's this message of acceptance and we have to accept the message of acceptance. Luther calls this faith, the acceptance of the fact that you are accepted. Faith is accepting God's message of acceptance despite being unacceptable. That's it. Despite the fact that you are unacceptable, you are totally accepted by God. And you just need to accept that. Faith is to hold on to that. Faith is to grab a hold of that revelation. You don't need to turn up at church next week and whip yourself 5 times because you've been bad. It's like, no, you just need to accept that you're accepted by God, even though you're unacceptable. And this is remarkable. This is why it was called the Reformation, and the church kind of went 2 different ways, and all sorts of complexities kind of happened. This wasn't like this is a slightly debatable kind of. This is a big deal. Important reality to note here. It's not that the mean and nasty Pharisees were making out that people were unacceptable, and then Jesus came to show how they weren't unacceptable. We don't read the text carefully. It's easy to read it quickly and go, man, everyone was saying those people were unacceptable, and then Jesus says, no, you're totally acceptable. That's really not. These people that Jesus has encounters with, they were, how did I write it? They were, I wrote it so nicely, but I can't see it. Anyway, it misses the radical nature of the good news to think that the scribes and Pharisees were saying all these people are unacceptable, and then Jesus goes, no, they're not unacceptable, they're totally acceptable. It's not quite what Jesus was saying. These people were certifiably unacceptable. And Jesus was saying, despite being certifiably unacceptable, I accept you. I pull you in. I call you in. Because we've got corrupt tax collectors that are ripping people off. Like, to be a tax collector was a Jewish person would pay off the Roman Empire to be appointed by the Roman Empire to be the tax collector, so that you could then charge exorbitant tax, give a percentage to the Roman Empire, and keep the rest for yourself. The tax collectors were hated by their fellow Jews. Then the other half were zealots. Well, zealots are basically, nice by day, assassins by night, killing Roman officials. It's like, that's like card-carrying, unacceptable behavior, to be like murdering people in the middle of the night. Don't do that. It's not, you don't, if your marriage is in that place, don't go there. It's not right to pull out a knife and stab. And Jesus is like, hey, despite being unacceptable, you're accepted. You got this Roman commander. He is enforcing the peace of Rome on behalf of the evil empire. The people of Rome don't say anything or we'll chop your head off. He's there, and Jesus says, oh, you've got great faith. It's like, these are card-carrying, totally unacceptable enforcer of the evil empire. What's going on? And Jesus says, no, you're accepted. You're accepted. He calls them to himself, not because their foibles and failings are acceptable, but rather because despite the fallings and fables, God loves, God calls, God draws in, God accepts, God welcomes. Literally, you come as you are, you're loved as you are included as you are. Romeo and I were driving to Napier for a conference, and he pulled out his phone and he Googled up hard questions for Christians. And he just said, all right, here we go, Dad. Hard questions for Christians. Hard questions for Christians. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm on a website from the UK that's got all of the impossible questions for Christians to answer. Number one, and he just started hitting me with questions. He's like, you don't have to have an answer for everything. But way we went. And one of them was, the young guy said to his youth pastor, do I have to give up pot to become a Christian? Oh, or maybe that was you. Are you smoking pot? Was that coming from your little heart? Do I have to give up pot to become Christian? And the youth pastor rightly said, no, of course you don't. Of course you don't. Giving up smoking marijuana is not a prerequisite to come to Jesus. Come to Jesus as you are. There's no prerequisites to. Is getting clean the prerequisite to having a shower? No, it's not. It's not the prerequisite to have a shower. Come as you are. That's the whole purpose of it. It's just the prerequisite to hopping in the hot pool for some reason. I don't understand that. But getting clean is not the prerequisite to having a shower. Just come. There's no prerequisite to coming to Jesus. You're accepted by Jesus despite the fact that you're totally unacceptable. That's what grace is. That's the whole point of it. Infinitely accepted. Come as you are. The thief on the cross, man, the good one. You know the good thief on the cross? I mean, he'd murdered a few people and he'd ripped off some people and he was a bad man and he deserved death. But, the good thief on the cross. Remember me in paradise? Jesus said, yeah, I'll remember you in paradise. It's like, whoa, he didn't even say the prayer. It's like, hang on, you didn't say the prayer. And it's like, Jesus is like, what? It's like, the prayer didn't get invented for about 1,200 years. But aside from that, he didn't say the prayer. He didn't do alpha. He didn't even do alpha. He just didn't do just, yep, you'll be with me in paradise. It's like, well, he hasn't even had a chance to show a little bit of positive energy. And it's like, no, you'll be with me in paradise. The invitation is to accept that you're accepted despite being unacceptable. Being unacceptable, it's not trendy to refer to somebody as unacceptable in our day and age. Just look at your own life. Is everything in your world rosy and beautiful? Would you love to have that broadcasted to? Are you the perfect husband? Are you the perfect wife? Are you the perfect parent? Do you ever lose your cool? It's like, no, do you reflect God to the world around you in everything that you do? It's like, no. It's like, yeah, that's just what it means. We just fall short to represent what God's like. There's some stuff that we do that, man, if everyone lived like that would be a disaster. We've got to rein that in. It's like, yeah, cool. But you're accepted despite that. Faith is awakening to the fact that in Christ there is nothing you need to do for acceptance. It's all done on your behalf in Jesus. There's no hidden magical power in our souls you need to activate, no 10-week course to tick off, no retreat center you need to live at for 6 months. We just simply discover that we're acceptable in the moment that we accept Christ's acceptance. Well-being of the soul starts with accepting that you are accepted by God. Right now, just as you are. In this very moment, in this current state, like right now, today, in this instant, you're just loved and accepted by God exactly as you are. Even when the interior and the exterior are unaligned, you're accepted by God. That's the radical nature of grace. And faith is to accept the acceptance of God, even though we know we're not that acceptable. Now, there's a real temptation to want to add discipleship into it. There's a real temptation to go, you're accepted, but go and sin no more. Oh, you're accepted, but I'll make you fishers of men. I'll go clean you up. You're accepted, but take what you have, sell it, and give half to the poor. It's so tempting to want to run to the but. But none of those things were a requirement for grace. None of those things are a requirement for grace. We know there's more to the story, but they're not prerequisites to being accepted. None of those things are a prerequisite to further or ongoing acceptance either. God will still love you. God's grace extends. Those things are a response to the love and grace of God, but not fine print conditions of acceptance and grace. Discipleship is our response to the love of God, but they're not fine print conditions to the love of God. Acceptance is simply acceptance. Unconditional love flowing from God into our lives. What about whitewashed tombs and faith without works? Yeah, it's detail that comes later, but it's not a prerequisite to the quirkiness of God's grace. That's what makes grace grace. It's like, I want to add a but to it. I want to be gracious to everyone around me. If after I've been gracious to them, they're very quickly, it's like, no, it's just is what it is. And it's radical and it messes with people's heads. Next slide. Accepting that you're accepted despite being unacceptable. If you can come alive to the reality that God accepts you as you are, maybe you could accept yourself as you are too. If you can come alive to the reality that God accepts you the way that you are, maybe you could accept yourself as you are too. And if God can accept others as they are right now, totally acceptable despite their unacceptability, maybe you could extend that kind of acceptance to the people around you, or at least try to extend that kind of acceptance to the people around you. Unconditional love and unconditional acceptance brings out the best in people again and again. The unconditional love and acceptance of God to a person. The unconditional love and acceptance of somebody to somebody else. The unconditional love and acceptance of somebody to themselves. Non-judgmental acceptance. The awareness of being accepted despite being unacceptable. That's the catalyst to growth. That's the launch pad to go on a journey of discovery and discipleship and change and formation. To know that you're deeply loved, deeply cared for, absolutely committed in this moment, in this space, in this way. That's the launch pad into discipleship. In 26 years of pastoring, I've never seen the promise of acceptance if. The promise of love if. The promise of grace and forgiveness if. I've never seen that draw the best out of people. I've never seen that lift somebody up and catapult them down a life of transformation, move somebody forward. It creates cycles of angst and guilt and disappointment. Yeah, if you meet this bar, then we will, then I will, then it'll be. I've never seen that. That's never rallied somebody to kind of navigate the true complexities of what it is to be human. Creates cycles of angst and guilt and disappointment. Unconditional love, grace, acceptance. Well, there's a power in that. It brings out the best in you. It calls you forward. It stirs your heart. It empowers you to believe that something more is possible. That's part of the mystery and majesty of God's love. God's infinite loving kindness that accepts us as we are is what draws us forward. But moving forward is not the prerequisite nor the catalyst to receive that love. The conditional love or acceptance of God is a myth. Because there's no such thing as the conditional love or acceptance of God. It's an unconditional, infinite loving kindness that is extended towards us. The conditional love of others will always be a distraction that derails you in life. The conditional love of others will always be a distraction that derails you in life because you work so, I don't know who is, I know what it's like for me to be a people pleaser. Man, you can burn yourself out trying to be a people pleaser, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to make sure everyone's loved. It derails you in life. The conditional love or acceptance of yourself creates angst and guilt. I'll be proud of myself when. I'll be proud of myself if. I'll accept who I am if I just need to get on. I mean, I know what it's like to come to the communion table. For years as a teenager, you're like, we got communion. You're not meant to, take that without examining your heart. Better get that right so we don't get smited. It's like having a shower before you come to the shower, getting clean before you come to the shower. It's like, no, you get to come as you are. But there's something about unconditional love and acceptance that is a source of life and of vitality that brings out the best. That calls us forward. Up on the next slide. Oh, there you go. Acceptance. I'm deeply loved of God. I'm accepted by God. That's the truth I'm going to allow to shape my life and allow that to tend to my soul. Why don't we stand together this morning? It's this great paradox and mystery of Christian faith. We're called to be holy, whole, and wholesome, and yet we're totally loved by God and accepted by God when we're not holy, whole, and wholesome. But we're never going to quite become holy, whole, and wholesome either, because that's the lifelong journey. He says to the woman caught in adultery, you're forgiven, I don't condemn you. Go and sin no more. Sin is to fail to represent what God's like. It's not like she went out and never once failed to represent what God's like forever for the rest of her life. No, it's just not condemned. It's never that you are accepted, but you better not stuff up. It's never that you are accepted, but you better not stuff up. It's, hey, you're going to stuff up, but you are accepted. And we've got to flip that around. Flip the script, and you find there's an invitation to holy, whole, and wholesome living rather than an invitation to guilt and condemnation. Because the infinite loving kindness of God doesn't leave you where you're at. It draws you to go on that journey. Accepting who you are. If you've ever done therapy or counseling or sat with a supervisor or extended pastoral sessions, the starting point is to be okay with who you are, to accept to know that you're loved and accepted just like this. Hey, look, if in our next 10 sessions together we don't make any progress, that's all right. Just know that you're loved and you're accepted, and sorting this out isn't going to make you more loved or more accepted. Now, I can understand you want to sort this out. That's the journey to go on, but it's not the prerequisite for anything. Until you can kind of get to that place, it's very hard to move forward. So well-being of the soul starts with this thing called grace. We're accepted. Accepted by God. Faith is our accepting of that acceptance. So this morning we gather at the table, not of St. Luke's, but of our Lord Jesus Christ. Listen to the invitation. It's made ready for those who love the Lord a little, those that would like to love him more. All are invited to take a seat at the table. The certain, the uncertain, the faith-filled, and the doubters. Why? Because you come not because of your own goodness, but you come because of the goodness of God. Come to where heaven and earth overlap, the table of the Lord, and receive the salvation of God, for Jesus is the bread of life, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Come and receive love and grace and mercy and forgiveness. Most of all, as we gather this morning, come and receive acceptance. Acceptance from Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen.